Hello everyone and welcome to a special video, to a special Easter egg. We have been teased by Motorsport Game Studio 397 in the last news video, in the last update video. In case you've missed it, I've linked it to you in the top right corner. But Easter eggs has been the word to say, and here we are. We're finding our first Easter egg for 2026. We see the not expected update, the not expected free content for all players with the Genesis GMR 001 Hypercar. So let's explore that new Hypercar a little bit, and yeah, let's start with the Genesis GMR 001's engine first. It's a 3.2 liter V8 B-turbo engine, and it is an LMDh hypercar configuration. And that's interesting because they're not only going to appear in WEC for 2026, they're also planning to enter the IMSA Sports Car Championship from 2027 onwards, hence the LMDh configuration to be eligible for both racing series. And this content drop goes very well in line with the Korean language updates that we're getting in version 1.3 to Le Mans Ultimate, as it is a Korean language now being displayable in the game. And that means it goes well in line with Genesis, which is the racing brand, or is a brand of Hyundai, a Korean manufacturer. So that is very interesting. However, there is more interesting things as we'll look into a couple of screenshots of the car. As we see in the shots of the Genesis, you may feel a little bit reminded about a car. And I wonder whether you guys can already guess what it is yet. If you can't, I may help you out with a little bit, because both cars, the one that's reminding and obviously the Genesis, are using the same technical basement and the same chassis and monocoque being supplied by the French manufacturer Orica. Additionally, a name of a personnel of the team, Cyril Abiteboul, will ring some people's bells. And then we have Paul Louchantin, one of their development drivers, and also actually a friend of mine, because I've raced Le Mans Virtual Series with him back in the day, 2020 that was. He has been a test and development driver for Genesis. And last but not least, that is the last hint before actually revealing the other car, their basement is in Le Castellet, so Paul Ricard, as a home racetrack. And for those of you that are still wondering what car this reminds me of, here is the shot of the Alpine A424 LMDh hypercar. So it's not only an LMDh, but if you look at the front of the car, especially the front, the first time I saw this Genesis picture, I was like, nah, very much reminded of that car. But anyway, that is the interesting stuff about that. And I would say, guys, it's time to take the Genesis out on track, take it for a spin, and see what it drives and handles like in Le Mans Ultimate. So let's go. Before we jump into the car though, a quick reminder, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring the bell for more update videos and Le Mans Ultimate streams. Well then, guys, into the Genesis GMR 001, I would say, first gear in and out we go. LMDh Classic. Whole tires obviously with the medium compound. And well, we're going to find out about this car in due course. I will turn up the audio, the game audio a little bit. Whole tires, obviously no surprise. So the Genesis in first sight got at least a unique car sound. Or not at least, it makes quite sense it does have that, right? But I would be not surprised, and I'm trying to find a picture of my stream, or actually, yeah, I'll try a picture of my screen with this car and with the Alpine going down Camel Straight, and probably we'll see quite some similarities to an extent. So I'm just making sure to Quickly check on seat position. That is 214 minus 3. I'm gonna set it up the same way in the Alpine because those bolts that we see in the front here, they kind of ring a bell on me. But again, it makes sense since this chassis is identical to the Alpine chassis. And I've already checked setup menus, setup possibilities, and I see quite some settings in this baseline setup to be similar to the Alpine. The question is, how does it feel? And the first thing that I notice, the Alpine would have used 55-56% brake bias. We're at 52-53 right now, and that feels pretty healthy for the car at this stage. So let's see, once the tires are in the window, how good are we looking? Let's have a quick look. ARBs are currently being put P4, P1. Let's put traction control a bit down. Front ARBs 2 clicks down as well. Up to lift out of it here. Now that's that special thing with these new tires not being up to temperatures just yet. No, motor map down to 40, maybe even 30 later on for no clipping. We take one more warm-up lap before we push the car. On that note, this is not only about the car, this video, but also a little bit about the FFB, because I can bring this up real quick by pausing the game so that you see what is the testing being done to. On the game settings, we do see, quickly changing the scenes to this, we do see on the control side force feedback, additional force feedback effects, and engine force feedback effects. The first things I notice from this is that the force feedback is vibrating a lot more as soon as TC kicks in, as soon as we're locking up a wheel, and especially also when cornering, indicating some understeer. Now, I have not done enough testing to yet say whether that is indeed going more vibrating in the steering wheel as we are understeering harder. Like this vibrates, that vibrates a little more. I suggest it does, but I think it will take a good hour and a half of, you know, just focusing on force feedback to find the perfect settings for oneself. I haven't quite yet determined the difference between the engine effects and the additional effects, but certainly you feel when the TC kicks in now a slight, ever so slight vibration on the steering wheel. So we do when we're locking up a wheel. So I really hope that I'm gonna benefit from this, and now I'll let you guys listen to that engine. So 3.2 liter V8 twin turbo engine, and with it being exactly that, I assume it has its maximum peak power on high RPMs. Like, that is a classic characteristic of a V8, especially with a turbo. Turbo obviously supports in lower RPM ranges when you overcome the turbo lag, but surely I assume maximum power output on high RPM. Speaking about high RPMs, 307 on the main Camel Straight as a top speed value. Remember, this is default setup, not optimized in any way, and I'm running a wing. Let me quickly check. P14 And if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember right now from heart, maybe we're gonna check with the Alpine later as well. I think with the Alpine I ran P15-ish swing. Hitting a bit more straight line speed though. Anyway, so let's quickly talk about the car as we're doing one lap here. I'm gonna do another one, and we are done with that preview of this car, as it really shall be an Easter egg. We're gonna have a quick look at the outboard sound on the next lap. And then of course we'll find a little bit of a resume. The Genesis out of the box feels a bit more agile. I'm gonna compare it again to the Alpine because the Alpine has the same type of chassis. So I also assume, similar to BMW and Cadillac, that the physics and the way the car is driving to be quite similar. Hence I'm doing that consideration. And I have to admit, it feels less understeery out of the box than the Alpine. Will it be quicker? That I do not know yet. Surely in cornering, the Genesis out of the box feels much better. It also feels a little bit more forgiving regarding braking and stuff. Remember, I had huge struggles in the Alpine, randomly locking rears, randomly locking the fronts. And the car really refused to rotate most of the times. So that, I think, is much better on the Genesis. Also trail braking into the corner, the car feels really good. Not locking the fronts. Gives a good amount of rotation. Here obviously a little bit of front locking as it makes sense. And together with the flashing lights of the TC, I feel the steering wheel vibrating, which is an additional way of communication from that force feedback. And I appreciate that at first sight. I'll be looking forwards to see whether this update in V1.3 is the actual game changer to me. But let's see about that in a moment. Almost. Right, and then I'd say let's go into the outer TV cameras and let us enjoy a little bit of exterior sounds. Telling you a cockpit driver without telling you a cockpit driver, right? I honestly appreciate this. Sounds powerful, sounds strong, sounds like a naturally aspirated V8. Really nice sound of the car. Also, I appreciate the shape of it. Like, it looks flamboyant, it looks quick, it looks to me much better than some other hypercars. It looks aerodynamical, very performant. It like the rear end reminds me a little bit of that Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken, with the front certainly reminding me of the Alpine. But yeah, I'm interested about your opinion, guys. What do you think about this car? What do you think about this machine? I hope you have enjoyed this part of the video. We're gonna now go into a quick resume and then we'll take it from there. Guys, thanks for joining us. As always, I hope you guys appreciate this video, and if you do so, please click the thumbs up button on YouTube, subscribe the channel, and ring the bell for more of these special news videos. And we're not done yet. We're now looking at the Alpine versus the Genesis car, side by side, from angle to angle, and talk about it. So as mentioned before, here I got the Genesis and the Alpine face to face in the Le Mans Ultimate Livery Creator, and here we can pretty much see that they are both being produced on the same chassis. On the front you can see the dive planes being in the equal positions. You see the very same front shape of the front splitter, and even the connection of the nose cone, or like the connection of the monocoque and the front crashing structure, being almost identical. The only big difference that we do see on the front end is the headlight shape and the headlight structure. Everything else seems to be pretty much the same, at least here on that front stretch. If we're moving on to check this once again from the front, you do see that shape once again being very much the same kind of hole that you see here on the front. The only difference that you see is the air intake on the Genesis being a little bit different. However, the top air inlet is pretty much the same, and you also can see the cockpit shape in itself is pretty much the same as well. We're going to do see that even better when looking from the side. There we see the side screen of the doors, also the windscreen, looking pretty much similar. However, here we do see significant difference from the monocoque going backwards. Different kind of shark fin here on the Alpine, a very different shaping also of the rear end of the car, the way the airflow is being distributed towards the rear wing on both cars, as we see. And the biggest difference, and probably also the most significant difference that we do see, is looking at both cars from the back. The Alpine here with the centered exhaust pipes, and the Genesis with two exhaust pipes being located in, well, the middle of each of each side of the car. However, once again, talking about the chassis, the diffuser structure, and also the way the transmission is being put in graphically at least, but also probably physically, is pretty much the same. Obviously, rear wing shapes in the Alpine with their logo being, well, flipped on the one side, being correct on the other side, being identical. And the rear wing of the Genesis together with the rear lights looking a lot different. However, you can also see from the interior, and I mentioned this before in the video, you can see from the interior that both cars are being basically on the same chassis. Remember I talked about those 4 bolts at the very front end in the cockpit. You can see them here. The cockpit has having the absolute same shape in this area. The air inlet could potentially be a bit different, but I think only because the LED strip that is being placed here in the Alpine is literally hiding that gap that we can see here on the Genesis, because, you know, this area right of the odometer looks exactly the same as here. We see the only little difference being on the front end of the shape, quite similar to what we've seen here in the front. Like, this shape's a little different than this, but apart from that, we do see that both cars are literally built on the very same chassis. So that's it then with the Genesis GMR 001 video. I hope you've appreciated, and very interesting for me to know is the Genesis going to be a car that you're particularly interested in? Are you looking forward to the new WEC season with Genesis being just another manufacturer coming into the season? Let me know down in the comments area below, and let's see how the Genesis will do in the big field of hypercars here on Le Mans Ultimate. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Hope you've appreciated this, and I see you next time. Bye bye.